São Paulo, Brazil, 1998. The largest metropolis in Latin America was about to face one of the darkest chapters in its criminal history. For months, the city lived under a climate of absolute panic. Women mysteriously disappeared. Families waited for news that never came. And then, bodies began to surface. Within a dense forested area in Parque do Estado State Park, in the south zone of the capital, police made discoveries that horrified even the most experienced investigators. They were young women, all with similar characteristics, all victims of the same calculated and cold brutality. The press didn't take long to baptize the perpetrator with a name that would enter Brazil's dark history: the Park Maniac. But who was this man? How did he operate? Why couldn't anyone stop him? Today, we're going to dive into this case that shocked millions of Brazilians. We'll understand the method, learn about the victims, follow the police hunt, and reflect on the impact this terror left on society. This is not an easy story to tell, but it's a story that cannot be forgotten. To understand how these crimes could happen, we first need to know the stage where it all unfolded. Parque do Estado, officially known as Parque Estadual das Fontes do Ipiranga, Ipiranga Springs State Park, is an immense green area located in the south zone of São Paulo. With more than 500 hectares of preserved Atlantic forest, the park houses the Botanical Garden, the São Paulo Zoo, and several ecological trails. During the day, it was, and still is, a leisure spot. Families visited the zoo, students frequented the Botanical Garden, runners and cyclists enjoyed the trails. But the park had another side: isolated areas, dense forest, infrequently traveled trails that moved away from the busy regions, places where a person could scream and no one would hear. And it was exactly this contrast between the public and the isolated, between life and death, that the criminal exploited with frightening coldness. Parque do Estado would temporarily become a silent cemetery, a place where dreams were destroyed and lives were brutally interrupted. He wasn't a monster in the traditional sense. He wasn't someone you would look at on the street and think, "This person is dangerous." Quite the contrary. The perpetrator was a man of ordinary appearance, good-looking, some would say, polite in initial interactions. He knew how to talk, he knew how to smile, he knew above all how to manipulate. He had what criminology experts call predatory charisma, the ability to inspire trust quickly, to make people lower their guard, to appear harmless until it was too late. Later, psychological studies revealed a disturbing profile. Psychological profile. Narcissistic personality with psychopathic traits, incapacity for genuine empathy, skilled at reading emotional vulnerabilities, need for absolute control over his victims. Pleasure derived not only from the act, but from the manipulation that preceded it. He was observant. He studied his targets. He identified women who seemed more vulnerable, more alone, more likely to believe in a promise of opportunity. And then, with the precision of a natural predator, he attacked. But not with initial brute force. No, he attacked with words, with promises, with dreams. The strategy was frighteningly simple, and precisely because of that, devastatingly effective. Phase 1. The approach. He circulated through busy areas of São Paulo, bus stops in the South Zone, sidewalks near popular shopping centers, commercial regions where young women walked alone. There he identified his target. They were usually women between 18 and 25 years old. Many came from low-income families. Some were unemployed. Others worked informal jobs. All in some way were looking for opportunities to improve their lives. And it was exactly this search that he exploited. Phase 2. The promise. The approach was always similar. He introduced himself as a professional photographer or modeling agency representative. He spoke confidently about the advertising market. He mentioned well-known brands. He complimented the victim's beauty in a way that seemed professional, not invasive. "You have an interesting profile. I'm doing a photo portfolio for a campaign. Have you ever thought about working with this?" For many of these young women, it was a dream. The chance to enter the fashion world, to earn money, to be recognized. Who wouldn't want that opportunity? He then talked about the need to take test photos. "I need to see how you behave in front of cameras. I have a reserved location for these initial tests." And that location, he said, was in Parque do Estado. It's a natural environment, perfect lighting, away from the city's visual pollution. All photographers used this location. It seemed reasonable. Many photo shoots really do happen in natural environments. Phase 3. The isolation. Once inside the park, he led the victim to increasingly remote areas. He claimed to be looking for the best angle, the perfect light, a more exclusive setting. Step by step, meter by meter, they moved away from the busy areas, until there was no one else around, until the screams wouldn't be heard. Phase 4. The horror. When they were completely isolated, the mask fell. The gentle professional man transformed into the predator he always was. Violence exploded. Brutal physical aggression, strangulation, sexual abuse. Some victims managed to resist, fight, survive. Others didn't have that chance. And when it was all over, he simply disappeared. He left the victim, alive or dead, in the forest and returned to his normal life as if nothing had happened. Until the next time. It's important, before we continue, to remember that we're talking about real people, not statistics, not numbers in a police report. They were daughters, sisters, friends, girlfriends. They had dreams, plans, families who loved them. The victim pattern. Most were between 18 and 25 years old. They came predominantly from peripheral neighborhoods of São Paulo. Many were in situations of economic vulnerability, which made them more susceptible to the promise of quick and well-paid work. Some were students looking for extra income. Others were unemployed and desperate for opportunities. Several were young mothers trying to support their children. They all had something in common. They believed in a promise. They trusted someone who seemed to offer a legitimate chance. And that trust cost everything. What we know, between 1998 and the time of his arrest, it's estimated that the criminal attacked at least 9 confirmed women, of which 7 were murdered and 2 managed to survive. But experts believe these numbers could be higher. Unreported cases, unidentified victims, crimes that were never connected to the same perpetrator. Each of these women left a shattered family. Mothers who were never the same again. Fathers who lost the will to live. Siblings marked forever. June 1998. The first body. A maintenance team at Parque do Estado makes a macabre discovery during routine cleaning in a closed forest area. The body of a young woman in a state of decomposition, partially covered by leaves and branches. Police are called. The Medical Legal Institute confirms homicide by strangulation. Signs of sexual violence. The victim is identified days later. She was 19 years old. She had disappeared weeks before. Initially, the case is treated as an isolated homicide. Tragic, but unfortunately not uncommon in a metropolis the size of São Paulo. But it was just the beginning. July 1998. The second body. Less than a month later, Another body is found. Same park region, same cause of death, same brutality. Another young woman. She had also disappeared recently. Investigators begin to realize maybe these aren't isolated cases. August 1998. The pattern is confirmed. More bodies. Always in the same area, always the same method. The São Paulo Civil Police forms a specialized task force. Experienced homicide detectives, forensic experts, forensic psychologists. And then, the devastating conclusion: São Paulo has an active serial killer. The information leaks to the press. The media explodes. Headlines in all newspapers: Terror in Parque do Estado. Serial killer strikes in São Paulo. Maniac murders young women. Police programs dedicate hours to the case. News broadcasts open with the stories. The city enters panic. Women begin to avoid walking alone. Families forbid daughters from going out unaccompanied. Parque do Estado, once a leisure space, becomes a symbol of fear. And the criminal? He remained free. He continued hunting. But within this nightmare there was a thread of hope, a crucial element that would completely change the investigation. Some women survived, and their stories would become fundamental to unmasking the predator. Testimony 1. The first survivor. A 23-year-old woman was approached at a bus stop in the South Zone. The man promised work as a model. She, unemployed, agreed to go to the photo test in the park. Once isolated in the forest, he attacked her violently. He tried to strangle her, but she fought. With a strength she didn't know she possessed, she managed to break free, run, scream. He fled. She survived. Injured, traumatized, but alive. And more importantly, able to describe her attacker. Testimony 2. The second survivor. Weeks later, another woman had a similar experience. Same approach, same promise, same location. But when the attack began, a family of visitors passed near the trail. Frightened by possible witnesses, the perpetrator fled before completing his crime. Another testimony, more details. Building the profile. With the survivors' accounts, police began to assemble a composite sketch. Physical characteristics, way of speaking, clothes he usually wore, the type of camera he carried, which was fake, police would later discover. The survivors also provided crucial psychological information. How he approached victims. The discourse he used, how he gained trust, the specific locations where he took the women. This information would be the key to finally capturing him. The pressure on the police was immense. The media demanded answers daily. Victims' families protested. The population demanded justice. The police strategy. The task force implemented several tactics. 1. Massive distribution of the composite sketch. Newspapers, TV, radio, all displayed the drawing of the suspect. Do you know this man? Call the police. 2. Intensive patrolling. Undercover teams began circulating through Parque do Estado and nearby regions, especially in common approach areas. 3. Awareness campaigns. Public alerts about the modus operandi. Warnings for women not to accompany strangers, especially with promises of work without formal documentation. 4. Direct line with the population. An exclusive phone number was created for tips. Hundreds of calls arrived daily. The pressure increases. Each day without an answer was torture. For the families, for the police, for the city, and then, finally, a concrete lead. The recognition. One of the survivors was watching TV with her family when something made her freeze. A man being interviewed on a variety show. talking about photography, showing his work. "Mom, it's him, it's him." The call to police was immediate. August 4th, 1998. Based on the identification made by the survivor and complementary investigations, police finally had a name, an address, a target. An operation was mounted, tactical teams, arrest warrant. All protocols followed. At dawn, police surrounded the suspect's residence, located in the south zone of São Paulo itself. He wasn't expecting it. He didn't have time to flee. He was arrested without resistance. The evidence during the search of his home, investigators found clothes compatible with victims' descriptions, personal items from some of the murdered women, a camera that didn't work, it was just bait, newspaper clippings about the crimes, but the most compelling evidence was the confrontation with the survivors. In a recognition room, both women who had escaped identified the suspect with absolute certainty. "It's him. I will never forget that face." The confession. Under interrogation. Initially, he denied everything, but confronted with the evidence, with the testimonies, with the material proof, gradually he began to admit. First one crime, then another, then more. The confession was devastating. Details that only the real criminal could know. Exact locations, specific methods. The park maniac had been captured. The judicial process was followed by the entire country. Each hearing packed, media covering every detail. The charges: 7 qualified homicides, 2 attempted homicides, 9 rape cases, concealment of corpses. The defense. His lawyers tried to argue psychological disorders, lack of criminal responsibility, but the psychiatric reports were clear. He knew exactly what he was doing. He had full awareness of his acts. He planned, executed, and hid evidence. The verdict: guilty on all charges. The sentence: sentenced to more than 170 years in prison, all sentences combined. Due to Brazilian laws, even with this sentence, the maximum he could effectively serve would be 30 years, legal limit at the time. But the message was given. Justice had been served. The Park Maniac case left deep marks on Brazilian society. In public safety, creation of specific protocols for investigating serial crimes, improvement in communication between police stations to identify patterns, investment in criminal profiling training. In social awareness, alerts about false work promises, personal safety campaigns for women, discussion about social vulnerabilities that facilitate predators. In the media, the case inspired books, documentaries, and even film productions, served as a study for investigative journalism, raised debates about ethics in covering violent crimes. In forensic psychology, studies on Brazilian serial killer behavior, analysis of psychological manipulation patterns, development of psychological profiles for prevention. The convicted man serves his sentence in the São Paulo prison system. For security reasons and due to the nature of his crimes, he remains in closed regime with limited possibilities for progression. Over the years, he has granted some interviews to researchers and journalists, always causing controversy. Some experts argue that these interviews help understand the criminal mind. Others criticize, saying it gives a platform to a criminal. The debate continues. The families. The victims' families never fully recovered. Some became activists for justice and public safety. Others preferred silence and privacy to process their pain. The Parque do Estado continues to be an important public space. But for many São Paulo residents, especially those who lived through that period, the place carries dark memories that will never completely disappear. The Park Maniac case is more than a crime story. It's a mirror of the social vulnerabilities that still exist. It's about women who sought opportunities in an unequal society. It's about a predator who exploited these vulnerabilities with calculated coldness. It's about families that were never the same again. It's about a city that had to face its deepest fears. And it's about a warning that remains relevant to this day. Not everything that seems like an opportunity is real. Not every person who smiles is trustworthy. And social vulnerability creates openings for predators. The 7 women who lost their lives should not be remembered only as victims. They were people with dreams, plans, and a right to life that was brutally denied to them. May their memories always remind us of the importance of protecting the vulnerable, of the need to educate about personal safety, of the value of a society that offers real opportunities, not false promises, and of the urgency to never, ever let our guard down against those who disguise themselves as saviors, but are predators. If this video impacted you, if you believe that stories like this need to be told for awareness and prevention, leave your like down below. Comment. What did you think of this case? Do you remember when this happened? What's your opinion on how we can better protect vulnerable people? Let's talk in the comments. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next investigative cases. Every week we bring deep analyses of real crimes that marked Brazil. Share this video. The more people know about these cases, the greater the awareness about safety and protection. See you in the next video. And remember, knowledge is the best form of prevention.